20th, Planning and Sustainability Subcommittee meeting. And I will just go ahead and go to looks like item 2, communications. And any comments about correspondence, Vice Mayor?
Nope.
Okay. And yep, and I've had a chance to review that. And then item 3, public comment. This is where members of the public may comment on items not on today's agenda. Attendees will be muted until you are called upon for public comment. To make a public comment, please use your raise hand icon on your smart device or desktop computer, or dial *9 if you are using your telephone. Please listen carefully. I'll have the clerk address you by name or by phone number for the audible Zoom notification that you've been unmuted. Once you begin your public comment, you have 3 minutes, and our clerk will have a 3-minute timer for us up on the screen. Would anyone like to make a public comment on item not on today's subcommittee agenda?
No hands are raised, Chair.
After all of that, no hands are raised. That's great. We're going to move on to item 4 in the minutes. Vice Mayor, had you had a chance to review the minutes? Everything looked to be in order to me.
Everything looks in order.
All right. Well, then minutes are approved from the meeting from February 16th. And then we're going to move item 6E up to our next item. Kevin, would you like to take this?
Yes. We've been talking about this at this committee for about a year now. This is kind of the next step in our energy audit that we've been working with PG&E and Centrica Business Solutions, who's a sub for PG&E, and Brooklyn Stewart is on the line. He works for Centrica. We did a couple walkthroughs. They took a look at all of our systems, and they've come up with some pretty cool, exciting ideas. It looks like that we would be able to cobble together a project using, and I'll let them tell you more about it, but just real quick, it combines lesser payoff projects with better payoff projects to make it all pencil out. The next step is what they call a industry grade audit, so there'll be a lot more analysis into our systems. David Carter's here too. He works for PG&E, and he's been super helpful along with Brooklyn, just getting this project up and running. So Brooklyn, I don't know, we can just cut right to the meat of it. If you have that spreadsheet with the projects, we kind of talked about maybe having that as if you have that, that would be great. Otherwise, we can just talk about what they are.
Hi. Yeah, I do have that.
Is that on the page 118 of the packet?
No, I don't think it was. Chair,
wasn't included. Okay.
It was not included.
Sorry, I will stop trying to be helpful.
Well, there is a PowerPoint in there that talks about the program that we can present to council at some point. But maybe we can just get into the projects and take a look at what they came up with to this point.
That sounds great. Do they want to are you going to just start with the PowerPoint that's included?
Do you want me to just run through some of the fine points of that?
I had a couple of questions on the slides. What about you, Vice Mayor? Just for clarification. Oh, you're muted.
Just go ahead, and I'll go with your questions too.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Brooklyn.
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking on what Kevin said. The process is using a California contracting code 4217 that allows you to, in a budget neutral manner, with no upfront capital, upgrade your infrastructure, aging infrastructure, whether that's mechanical systems, process efficiency equipment at the water treatment or wastewater plants, upgrade lighting, HVAC, et cetera. And so we were asked to do a preliminary audit to identify if there was a viable project there, if there were some systems that the city needed to improve upon or upgrade based on them being end of life, to save, I guess, the idea that you would need to upgrade those in the future using whether it's general funds or emergency funds if the equipment failed. So that was the steps that we took. And the spreadsheet that Kevin is referenced is we call it a toggling tool. Essentially, it collects all of the data into a spreadsheet that we can then kind of select and deselect to show its impact on the on the larger project. So the idea is that you have some measures like lighting and solar that are a more attractive payback, and you combine that with some other things like again HVAC and mechanical upgrades that may have a much longer return on investment. So that allows you to take the whole package to finance it. And the idea of budget neutrality is that the energy savings or energy produced by the other systems will meet or exceed the debt service to upgrade it. So again, you can do that in a budget neutral manner. Any questions on that?
Nope, it's pretty consistent with getting a analysis of your home energy and getting a home energy audit and right sizing your solar array, but much bigger.
Yep. If you'd like, let me see. It looks like I can share my screen, and I'll share that toggle tool, and I'll just kind of walk through it. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to let me know. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit just so we can capture a little bit more of this. So I'm just going to hide this first side, the FIM number. That's facility improvement measure. So you've got the FIM numbers over there, and I'll just move over here. So as you can see, we've got interior lighting and controls at pretty much all your facilities. The exterior lighting is your wall packs and parking lot lighting. As you can see, that's at most of the facilities here. Relatively smaller cost measures. And then you've got HVAC replacements at City Hall, police, the police station, and the senior center, most of which were at or near end of life. Most of them are pretty old, older systems.
Brooklyn, just real quick, there is a little bit of a question because some of these facilities like the senior center, we don't pay the power bill on. So we can do a couple things. We can, maybe amend their lease to include the power or work around another way. But the reality is these systems in the buildings that we own are so old that we're just going to have to keep repairing them. And so, it could be a savings for the senior center. But anyway, I just wanted to point out you might see some buildings that we don't pay the power bill on.
I would rather see it because then maybe it is something that we can kind of deal with them for underwriting, because we do, and then we offer additional grant money to them. So, money is money.
What about the library? We don't.
Yeah, we didn't include the library. I noticed that. Yeah.
Well, here's the story with the libraries. These guys have been out twice. The second time it was closed and we couldn't get in, but we're still planning to look at the library. But
the library had that recent refurbishing and refreshed, and I'm just wondering if some of what was HVAC or anything like that included in that when they did those renovations, Kevin.
I think the library needs HVAC.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Craig is out there fixing it every year, and it's 20 something years old.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and the lighting also, I mean, just from standing on the outside, you could tell was eligible for upgrading.
Yeah.
So definitely. So the process we're currently in is the preliminary assessment. So it's identifying if there are measures there. Again, if there are points that the city wants to address. During the investment grade audit phase, which as Kevin noted would be the next step, is where we're walking each of those sites in more detail. We will have to access the buildings, so we need to coordinate with your folks on safety measures and adherence to COVID protocol, and all that would be done during that next phase. So that is one of the things that was brought up in our last meeting with David and Kevin for the library.
So it sounds like this was mostly hands off at this phase that we're with the information that we're seeing.
We accessed most buildings.
You did, except the library. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we did get inside, even the senior center. We were able to access that building, look at the mechanical equipment, the lighting. So all of these are fairly realistic. You know, we need to put a firm fixed price on the projects to finalize. You know, walking any subcontractors, et cetera. Let's see, what else do we have in here? You've got some pump motor replacements, VFD installation at the pump station here. You've got solar at the city hall, police station, water treatment plant, and wastewater plant. As you can see, these are the two larger ticket items, and really the driving force, which is what allows us to include some of those mechanical systems that are expensive, yet don't show a significant payback. So it would allow you to upgrade those systems when currently you're kind of putting a band-aid approach on it, where you're fixing them. At some point, they're going to reach the end of life where they fail beyond the point where you can resurrect. So this would allow us to look at some of those. So the total project is just shy of 4 million. We've got in here these highlighted cells are where we can alter, for instance, the minimum cash flow. So this is saying that the city wants to have a minimum positive cash flow. As you can see down here, I'm going to scroll out again just so you can see this a little bit more complete. So what this shows is that your debt service, or your payment for the loan, and the energy savings are going to hover right along where to mirror each other. And you can see the green line is your positive cash flow, and then in the 16th year, when that pays off, is when you get to realize the full extent of the savings, and the systems have all been paid off.
And they're going to offer us some other options. You know, there could be an opportunity for the city to buy down some of the debt up front to have a shorter payback, but we'll get into that later. But we have been discussing that, you know, perhaps some of the emergency money from the federal government or some other source to, and, you know, I don't know if it makes sense yet, but we're kind of relying on them to provide a little more analysis when we get deeper into it.
Right. Well, and then when we get into it as a city too, I mean, some of it's going to come from different funding sources. Some of it we'll be able to pay for it with wastewater funds or water funds. And when we get down, Brooklyn doesn't need to hear that. When we can get down to it, is that we have, you know, we have other means we have a couple of different means to pay for some of this. So, okay.
Gotcha.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Yes. What about if at some point we get lucky and we have a new city hall building? How would this impact this situation?
We had the same conversation with the police station because you know, we are.
Yeah, if one of them falls into the creek, which could happen any day.
Right. It's definitely a consideration. I mean, I don't know the idea of moving photovoltaic cells. We're not sure if the police station can support them. We're having a structural analysis done for the other part of the police station we're trying to remodel, just as an aside. So yeah, it's a good question, and we have talked about it a little bit. That might be something that if the payback was shorter, it might be more attractive. But I don't know, Brooklyn, what do you think? I mean, the panels probably could be moved if you know, if that was a possibility. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, during the IGA phase, you know, these are the kinds of conversations that we'd get into more depth on, to identify, you know, what kind of racking systems would be used, to identify the ease of moving that if we wanted to shift it to a new civic center, as you mentioned. So yeah, during the IGA process, that really is what would be investigated, as well as the alternate funding sources. So with the money that is coming from the federal government, those are things that we would look at in making sure that we can gain access to it. Another thing that we do not include in this initial study is utility incentives. There is a rebate program that is specifically tailored for local government in California through PG&E. So that is also something that we would investigate. We generally don't include it on the front side of this because there is volatility in the rebate programs, just depending on how they're funded through the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, and when you put an application in and where you've earmarked those funds for your particular municipality.
And the same is true for the city park. I mean, we do have a plan for upgrading the city park, and there will be a different kind of building also. So it's something to take into account.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is here, I mean, I guess good or bad, we have a lot of very old equipment. And this is really an opportunity for us to come in, and get a lot of it taken care of. And if we, we can do, like Brooklyn said, kind of an on-bill financing with really little to no money up front. And then, the one savings that's not quantified is our maintenance, again, Craig going out and fixing these things a lot. And the other thing I asked them, and they're willing to accommodate very easily, is, to get the greenhouse gas reduction as one of the columns in the spreadsheet. So one of the things we need to do also is do this master agreement with PG&E. It's currently at Jose's office. And so we're going to be bringing that to council if this subcommittee agrees. And I know this presentation is also going to be at the finance subcommittee as well. So we need to get that master agreement signed and then move forward to the audit.
If I could add one other thing that we're doing with other municipality customers is a marketing effort, a public relations effort to get a message of what you're trying to achieve, because there is an infrastructure upgrade benefit to this, where you're doing everything that we've talked about, where you're saving for future expenses. But the other thing is the environmental impact that I believe this committee is really centered on, and the ability to bring that message effectively to your constituents. It's something that we love that part of it, and we have a marketing department that we would have at your disposal to partner with you to help craft that message and to get the message out there, whether it's through local media outlets or social media or training seminars, but just that idea of really getting your message and the message of what this project is achieving out to your constituents.
Well, and honestly, I think that, just by way of feedback, mostly for city staff, I mean, I share the concern of the vice mayors that if we're talking about solar upgrades, or we're talking about, solar panels on the city hall and the police station. Both buildings are pretty rough shape. How much do you invest in buildings like that? But at the same time, the equipment is at the end of life anyway. So if we couldn't even build a building, even if we broke ground today, we wouldn't be moving into, either a new city hall or a new, police station for a year or two. And in the meantime, you still need a new HVAC system. It doesn't change the fact that you need that. So, but, those are really easy things to kind of attract our attention. But the two big ticket items that I see are the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. And I think that the thing that gets lost so many times in the discussions about, the sustainability aspect of it is, or the reason our subcommittee, meets in the first place is that one of the things that people aren't aware of is how much energy we spend moving water around in the state. I mean, it's just staggering. And when you look at the PowerPoint that you did include, and you take a look at the amount of horsepower that the old pumps are using, and then that translates into how much power they're using, and then how much our power bill is every month. One of the other big issues in Cloverdale is the fact that we're having to, we really didn't invest in our wastewater and water treatment infrastructure for decades. We delayed maintenance and we delayed upgrading those systems, and it's costing us money. And a lot of that money is not just in the labor that it takes to maintain these aging systems. It's in the electricity that they're using that they don't need to be using if we had been upgrading those systems. And so, we have constituents who are really upset about the fact that their water and sewer rates are going to be going up because they have to go up to reflect the actual cost to maintain the system. But when you look at the deferred maintenance and how much energy it's costing us every year, it's just obscene. So whether or not we put solar panels on the police department, or we build parking structures or something like that, it pales in comparison to the wastewater and the water treatment plant numbers. And so, just to me, I'm like, we need to let our constituents know that that was a huge part of the cost of doing business. And then when we do these upgrades, not only are we reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but we are going to be lowering our utility bills in those two departments by a pretty large margin. So, that really needs to be part of our community outreach as well. Is that, yeah, we're doing the right thing because we're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, but we're also, protecting everybody's pocketbooks by investing in, replacing that aging infrastructure and getting, the most up-to-date equipment that we can going that is far more energy efficient and is going to cost us so much less money. So that's a huge, that's very important to me when when I was reviewing your report. So I'm wondering though, Kevin, if you think it's time to just, if there's anyone who in the public who wants to contribute, do you think we've gotten the overview of everything that Brooklyn has for us to look at?
I do. Right. We have our next steps. They are going to be at the finance committee. And then after that, we're planning to bring the agreement to the council, give them an update on what's going on, the whole council, and move forward with the audit. So okay. I think that's good for this one. It's exciting and there's definitely some opportunity here.
Yeah. So Irene, can we just go ahead, or Marta, you want to go ahead and then we'll open it up for public comment. So anybody who wants to, can you raise your hand now and we'll open it up after Vice Mayor has a chance to ask her questions.
Yeah, I was wondering if perhaps we could include the situation about how the wastewater plant and the water processing plant works in when we are talking to the public, because most of the time people don't quite understand as you mentioned, Melanie, the amount of energy that goes into moving water and engaging in the required processes for us to have clean water and also to have a non-stinking water plant.
All the things that go on that we don't want to know about, right?
So now this has to be part of it because it is ongoing education, the only way that we're really going to get the support of our constituents in this regard. And it is one of my plans to continue to bring people to the water plants so that they understand why we have to spend so much money in comparison with other jurisdictions that just go ahead and pay a water bill.
Yeah, that's because we don't pay the actual value of what it costs to maintain the system until now. Anyway, so Irene, is there anybody who would like to make a comment on this item?
No hands are raised, Chair.
Okay, great. I know that Brooklyn, you had asked to move this up, so you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, well, I actually just wanted to add something to Marta's point, the Vice Mayor's point about water efficiency specifically. That will be part of the IGA, the investment grade audit, is to look at water usage as well as how you guys are monitoring that. We're moving into a potential drought stage. And so being able to
we're in it. We're not moving into it. We're there. Yeah.
So that will be that's something that we did not include in part of our preliminary assessment, but we will be bringing out our water professionals that are really very talented in doing this, and they do it across the country. So we'll include that study as part of it. So if that helps in your study,
Yes.
then
Yeah.
that.
And would that
much more.
primarily be for city-owned properties or community-wide?
Community-wide, yeah. I mean, if you guys, I don't know the age of your meters, but that's certainly something if you're sending out city staff to take the meter readings, there's a significant savings from a revenue recovery standpoint of being able to install meters that you can read remotely, as well as the efficiency of some of the other equipment.
Excellent.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, I know you, you had asked to have your item moved up, so I don't know if you have someplace else to be, but I'd say thank you. And you've got our direction, Kevin. And
Yes.
yeah, I'd say let's move it along to the next step.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And in keeping with Zoom land, I need to take a short break and let the dog out of the office. So I will be right back. And I don't feel so bad about asking for that because actually at a recent League of Cities meeting, the CFO of CalPERS got interrupted by his dog too. So I'm gonna let her out of the office. So let's take just a quick 1 minute break. Thank you.
Is this a public break?
I don't know. I forgot to mention, we do have a planning commission meeting tonight, so hopefully we can not go to like much more than like 5:45.
Well, tell Melanie,
I
I'm
will.
fine with that too.
I-
You're muted, Melanie.
Sorry, wait, you want a speed meeting? Is that what I'm hearing?
No,
Yes.
Chair, we just have the planning commission at
Oh
6:30.
God, oh criminy. Okay, I'm in favor of people eating dinner myself, like we're having a short break between meetings. So let's get back to our agenda and
Okay.
let's see, where are we? We're at item 5A in CRA. Is that you, Kevin?
I think this came up when Irene sent out the agenda for comments. I'm not sure if somebody else suggested that this be put on here. I don't know if you know Irene. I'm not sure. I don't really have an update because I thought this was somebody else's item, but
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I can just give you
It's
a
Senator
short.
Maguire. It's Senator Maguire's item.
Yeah, it's Senator McGuire. Oh, I guess, I don't know what the status of SB 69 is right now. I think it's been signed or it's passed. I'd have to look it up, but I'll just tell you what I do know is that the NCRA will be dissolved and it's going to turn into the Great Redwood Trail. The board will switch to the Great Redwood Trail Authority or Agency Board. And I can tell you now that currently Supervisor Gore sits on NCRA, and he called me a couple of weeks ago and said, I'm just not going to have time to do it. Would you be willing to do it? So I will probably be sitting on that agency or sitting on the board of that agency, which from what I understand, the jurisdiction so if I'm also on the SMART board, the SMART rail line ends in Cloverdale, and then right where it ends, the GRT will start. So I'll be, it actually is not a jurisdictional conflict of interest for me because they don't overlap. They actually just kind of like meet each other. And so I'll be serving on that board in the future. And I guess it's going to come before the Board of Supervisors for my appointment sometime this month or early next month, something like that. But that's all I know about it. I don't know if that's what you meant, but
no, that's great. I mean, next time I'll have an update. I'll keep tabs on it. I was
Yeah.
thinking it was going to be a standing item.
I think I don't know what the status of it. I'd have to go look it up. SB 69. I think it's passed. But
Okay.
that's essentially that's what will that's what will happen. But the other thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on is what SMART's having to keep an eye on, which is the rail agencies across the country that are converting to from rail to trail are being sued. So we're going to have to just wait and see how some of that shakes out. And it's going, I mean, it definitely affects Cloverdale directly because the rail and the trail are right inside our city limits, right inside our jurisdiction, and they're going to be an important part of our, planning going forward because you have you have the SMART station at the corner of Citrus Fair, and then that piece of railroad that is right next to Asti Road on First Street. It's the gateway to the River Park. It's a great gateway to the First Street Bridge and the proposed park at the Sonoma County Park in the Preston area, as well as other negotiations that we have around future park locations. So it's going to have a big impact on us planning for our amenities and our parks inside city limits and the gateway to parks that might be outside our city limits. So we have to definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and next time I'll have more of a report. I apologize.
No worries. So with that, let's just move on since we're going to hustle. Unless are there any hands raised, Irene? Are we seeing any hands raised for public comment?
No hands. And I was
Okay.
just going to confirm that, yes, this item came after the town hall meeting with Senator McGuire.
Okay.
It looks like it was SB 69 was amended on March 10th.
Okay, great. So yeah, we need to keep apprised of it as far as our park planning and our, planning for any gateway plans that we may have within city limits. So that'll definitely reside, in this committee. So with that, we'll move on to 5B, housing element RFP.
Okay, great. We have in the packet our proposed RFP, request for proposals for a housing element. This process is going to take place and start very soon. It has to be done by the end of next year. We've been talking a lot about the changes that the state has made, making it a little more difficult. But I think we're pretty good. We made sure that there's a bilingual component in the RFP because there is we're going to be asking the consultant for outreach. So we made sure that was in there. In terms of the budget, the state has provided us funding $65,000 through the LEAP grant and $25,000 through the REAP grant. And we are budgeting an additional 15 of our own money. We think that should cover it. So the financial hit will be less this year because the state is providing some money. So it's in the packet. Rafael, I don't know if you want to add anything. He was the one who put this together. We have some interest from our current consultant who's working on the downtown for the housing element. And there's a couple others. The one kind of the scuttlebutt around the planning world is they're all so busy that no one's really responding to the RFPs. So we're hoping that's not the case. And then there was some kind of movement to try to get some of the Sonoma County cities to work together. It's personally, I've done several housing elements. I like the idea. I just don't really see where, because it's so unique to each city, but maybe something will come out of that. But our plan is to, get this RFP out and get the ball rolling and get this process moving forward. Rafael, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I'll just add to that. So yeah, we did already send, actually even before we even sent it out, working with PlaceWorks with our SB2 grant for the downtown plan, which is in the Planning Commission talk later on. But PlaceWorks reached out actually before we sent out our housing element RFP, and a gal there, a worker there, actually was the head or worked on in part our last housing element. So she was interested in taking this one up. So we have sent it to her, even though it's still draft. So we could say PlaceWorks has it now. And then like Kevin mentioned, you know, it is a little harder this year, but the state has been seeming to try to make it easier and cheaper with the LEAP and REAP grants. But then also, just a little update, I've been, you know, paying attention and going to as much of these webinars as I can, MTC, ABAG collaborations, and but if a you know, multi-jurisdiction collaboration doesn't turn out, that'd be like, you know, kind of the higher, you know, maybe shooting for the stars kind of thing. We all can actually get one person to, you know, one consultant to do it, all of ours, which probably won't happen, or maybe parts of it, which maybe even less likely might not happen. But at some point, or in some way, there will be housing TAs that ABAG and MTC has already set aside funding. So Napa and Sonoma County are going to have at least we'll have one joint TA. You know, you might ask how much, you know, work can one person do between two counties, but I mean, at least that's just one example of there's something there that you know, the state's providing funding for a TA for, you know, Napa and Sonoma. We're hoping that it will be Josh Abrams from I've been he's at Baird and Driscoll. Josh is really good to work with, and aside from that, you know, the state has a lot of stuff available now. You know, how the RFP that you know, I released was largely in part just by help from an RFP template that they have on their website. They've got things like called a HES tool, which is the housing element site selection. They've got housing needs data packets for every individual jurisdiction in the entire state, which is kind of crazy. And then there's just 4, you know, data points within those things that are within those packets that each jurisdiction has to kind of key in to make theirs unique. Anyway, so that's a lot of stuff that our consultant will be using, but you know, the state really has a lot of stuff out there for us to use, and that's even more coming soon. So I'll stop there. So yeah, so after we finalize it, I think we have to take it to city council for adoption, and then we'll officially have it released.
Great. Thank you. Any questions,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor? Just, you know, you'd alluded to Planning Commission and the consulting group looking at the downtown plan. Can you elaborate on that? What they're currently working for us on?
Yeah, sure. In fact, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight at the Planning Commission. They're going to be presenting their first deliverable in our scope of work. We presented this to council probably about a year ago. We knew we were getting this SB2 grant, planning grant from the state. And some of the ideas that were presented included, you know, looking at the downtown zoning, and the intent of the SB2 grant is really to encourage housing. That has to be kind of the goal. So they're looking at downtown, TOD, and office residential, and they're going to give us suggestions on ways that we can amend the zoning to encourage housing downtown. And some of those things might be parking, density, you know, typical planning type restrictions that are put on developments. So, I mean, if you're interested, you can watch tonight and get a little bit of an update.
I haven't had nearly enough meetings today, Kevin. How did you know?
One of the cool things they're doing is there's opportunity. We worked with them to look for opportunity sites, vacant parcels in those areas. So they've looked at each one of those, and we're going to be asking the Planning Commission, you know, what will happen is the one that gets selected will get a little bit of extra planning. So they might do some kind of mock-ups or some more, just a little bit more on an opportunity site that would be located downtown. So it's pretty cool. And just in getting back to the housing element RFP, like Rafael said, we'll get this on a city council agenda for approval, and then we'll get it released, and we'll go forward. So we're going to have, you know, some pretty big planning efforts all kind of running together. But it's going to be.
Can we make sure, I know that we finally unearthed that downtown area plan that ULI had helped us with.
We sent that to them.
We sent that to them. Oh, great. That's
we
what
did. Yeah, okay. They have it. They like it. And it's part of one of the things that they're looking at tonight is kind of a literature review, for lack of a better word, like our zoning general plan that was included in there as well. So
great.
We're going to be talking about that and their initial findings. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. So if
I know David wants to go to another meeting today, so maybe he'll go to the Planning Commission meeting too.
Can you cover it for me, David?
I think, yeah, he's had enough, I can tell.
So
All
if,
righty,
if-
well, no, that sounds great. And actually, just by way of direction, I mean, yeah, you can just reading through it, you can tell it's kind of boilerplate, but it's been edited for us and our needs. But yeah, it looks very straightforward, and yeah, it looks great going forward. So I don't know if Vice Mayor had any additional comments, or yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, it's very important that we define what is the zoning, given the situation we had recently with Hillsburg and the Boulevard with that
Mhm.
particular area. So I would like to hear a little bit more about that at another point, because I know it's not agendized right now.
We can add that to future agenda items for sure. Great.
yeah,
All
and
right.
just,
I'm trying to get through this meeting for you, Kevin, so that you
Yeah,
get
let's
a
do
short break. So let's do it. Are there any hands raised, Irene?
No hands are raised, Chair.
Okay, well then with that, let me go back to my agenda. Yeah, it sounds like you have adequate direction.
yep, you'll see it on the council agenda soon.
Great, so down to item 6 and 6A, small cell ordinance.
Yeah, remember I brought this to the council for consideration to, get direction to move forward with this. In your agenda packet for this meeting is really a kind of an overhaul of our entire telecommunications ordinance, because once we dived into it a little deeper, it was kind of clear that our current one was pretty old, and the way that there's so many amendments that would have to occur, it just seemed better to kind of redo the whole thing. And this thing is the one that's in your packet is really modeled off the city of Sonoma, which is, in my opinion, based on what I've done with the research on the FCC rulings, probably is as far as we can go with it. Things like requiring use permits and requiring the equipment to be undergrounded.
And having preferred sites.
And having
in this
preferred
order,
sites.
I thought that was great.
Yeah,
Myself, yeah.
it's it was recommended by Myers-Nave as a good example, and it's in large part very much like the Sonoma one. We've tweaked a few things here and there, but it's again, my personal opinion is it's as far as we can take it without them, saying, well, you can't regulate us too much. So I don't know if there's any questions, or Rafael, you want to add anything? He did a lot of work on this.
I'll just add that it doesn't replace our other one. That's kind of how I thought it was going into the beginning. How we were going into this was replacing it. But after talking with the city, I guess the community development director there, David Storr in Sonoma, they essentially just supplemented it. So this is a supplement, and in looking at those Sonomas too, their existing one didn't, they didn't revise it at the same time they were doing this. So they didn't, adopt this and then go through their other one and then tweak things to match this. They just essentially just adopted this, and the other one stayed the same. Just number wise, for ours, it didn't make sense. I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in, the chair or, staff or anybody else wants to weigh in on, so I'm just looking for our code here. So yeah, so our telecommunications, our existing one is 15.37, and then our next one is 15.38, which is solar, and then our next one 15.39 is expedited streamlined permit. So I label this, I have it numbered as 1540. It'd be nice to have it right next to 1537, but everything's just right in a row. So I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that, number wise?
Well, I have a question, Rafael, before you move on. You confused me because I thought that Kevin said that this is a new one, and then you said the other one stays and this is an amendment. I mean, please.
Yeah, that was it. I was mistaken on that. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's in addition to it, because the other one, it's still relevant. The other one is really, about towers, and some of it is a little bit archaic, about the old dishes, the TV satellite dishes people had in their yards, but a lot of that is still, it talks about our essentially cell towers and wireless communication towers. But so this is really things in the right of way. That one doesn't address things in the right of way. And this ruling order, or the SEC, the thing that Kevin mentioned, it took effect in January 14th, 2019. that didn't address a lot of these things. They're just specifically, I think, specifically in the right of way. It meant to be, you know, on a lot of public infrastructure for a lot, you know, for lack of a better, that's kind of where you really see them. But so it's the supplement. So now we kind of covered both bases. We're covering, you know, all bases, I guess you could say.
And then what about the requirement that they have to be at a particular distance? Is that something we can control, or is that something that is going to happen anyway?
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, sorry, it's in here. And I'm just, I know, sorry, you can't see it, but I'm just looking at some notes that David sent me from their Sonoma one, but as Kevin said, it's the same thing. Yeah, that says pole mounted wireless facilities are at least 1,500 feet apart. Other than that, off the top of my head, I can just scroll through the code. But yeah, there is separation requirements just like that one. I'm guessing there might be other ones, but.
Are you referring to the 500 foot
and
setback?
then, you know, of course, sorry, I was just gonna, sorry, Madam Chair, I was gonna add the use permit process, you know, has to go to the use permit, so to the planning commission, so it'll be reviewed. And I guess, you know, even if it is outside of that distance, it could still be, you know, reviewed and amended for whatever other reason.
Yeah, Marta, were you referring to the 500 foot setback as well?
Yes, and I was just wondering, you know, if there would be more in some neighborhoods than in others.
And that's kind of how Kevin mentioned, there is a tier, or so I'm just scrolling through the code, like preferred locations, and, you know, again, we modeled it kind of after Sonoma's. And, you know, if you know Sonoma, you know, they're kind of like Gilbert, they got a town square, and I think one of the first things they said was, you know, prohibited in their PR, the Plaza Retail District, because they obviously didn't want them right around that district. I don't think I think I took, you know, that out of, you know, obviously we don't have a Plaza Retail, but I don't think we prohibited anything, but we do have, that's the point, is that's where we have some flexibility. You know, if you want to amend the preferred locations, if you want to specifically say we prohibit them in a certain district, you can do that too.
You know, and this is kind of something that I mentioned at the council meeting when we were talking about it. I kind of, or I can't remember, was it the finance admin subcommittee, or was it the council meeting? I don't remember now.
Council meeting.
The council meeting. Okay. I mean, I'd almost you know, there is a preference for, oh, well, we shouldn't have any, you know, in downtown commercial. But I almost prefer that we put them there. You know, especially, and, you know, and if they're on our light posts, I prefer that they have to blend with the light post, you know what I mean? So that they're really not noticeable. I prefer them there than in residential neighborhoods or in other places, you know, that are, you know, sensitive areas. I'd also prefer them there so that people have really good wireless connectivity when they're in town, you know, when visitors come to town. So I actually think it's to our advantage to, I don't really necessarily want to see them pushed out of downtown commercial. I mean, when you think about events like Friday Night Live and the car show and things that are, you know, where we're really trying to attract people to our downtown, it's an amenity that they want to have when they're there, but it's not necessarily, and if it's a green extension on a green lamppost that no one notices, all the better. But if it is an ugly, you know, antenna, or, you know, like small refrigerator size thing on the side of a utility pole in a neighborhood, I find that more offensive, just myself. So, you know, kind of so I appreciate, you know, pretty much as it is on as you had modified it on page 82 and 83 of the packet. I think that's definitely the right direction. And I guess there were mixed feelings about having it concentrated in downtown, but I'm more inclined to say, if we're going to have it somewhere, let's put it, down the middle of Cloverdale Boulevard, where we know that there's a pretty adequate setback in most places from residential or sensitive locations. And then we can also say it has to look a certain way.
Yeah,
You know?
I definitely agree, because, you know, the boulevard is the area that we're trying to develop commercially.
Yeah.
And it's where we really need to have access to all the information.
And that's where businesses need, so our existing businesses and, you know, and also people who might be, you know, we're talking about encouraging, you know, in the previous item, we're trying to encourage residential development in our downtown and our walkable spaces. Well, then that's, you know, definitely where we want to have high-speed internet. And you know, and 5G. So that's how I'm thinking. And Vice Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're just commenting on this because we are very concerned about the location and the access and the fact that we don't have a lot of health research regarding this. I was even wondering if there's ever going to be a legal issue, or if
They've pretty much prevented you from bringing that issue up.
Yeah.
I know.
Telecommunications lobby has somehow usurped the health lobby in this country.
But
So,
there are families who may at some point take action, and then everybody has to revise what has been said.
and I think that there are two things that I keep in mind of where this is concerned, is that the community has already spoken about what they think about a cell tower at the Citrus Fair, and the neighbors around there never got a chance to give input on that. So we already know people are sensitive and interested, and they don't want to see an eyesore in their neighborhood. So I've talked to a lot of those neighbors and a lot of those property owners, and they were not happy about that process. So I think that the onus is really on council and staff to make sure that that kind of situation doesn't happen again. The second thing that I think of, and I brought this up, and people are, it's a good thing that staff turns over, because people get sick of hearing, what I'm saying. But I mean, years ago in the Planning Commission, I was talking about the fact that why is it that Mill Valley, of all the cities in like Marin and Sonoma County, they have this beautiful Pac Bell building that's like a Tudor building that blends, it's with the architecture of the town, and it blends to this hillside. All the rest of us have these crappy like cement block buildings that all look alike, that are surrounded by cyclone fencing and barbed wire, and are ugly. They're just ugly, because none of the communities stood up and said, no, not in our town. And this is another chance for us, for the people in this community have already stood up and said, we don't like that ugly cell tower. We don't like, we don't like companies coming in here and taking advantage of us. We have an opportunity to, they've taken away most of our regulatory power because of their federal lobbying, but this is an opportunity where this community can say, now you basically have almost carte blanche, but we are going to lock this down so that we don't have another, eyesore in our town. And I think that this is going in the right direction. So I'm fairly pleased. But honestly, I would not want to see it pushed out of downtown commercial. Let's put it there, and let's make them put it on our green lampposts and make them blend in.
And I have a question. How is this going to impact the school district? Because, the school district, they want their campuses to be able to have access to good internet access and so on. And what are they saying about this? We are
have they put any input into this where they would like to see?
No, our plan was to bring this to Planning Commission, and hash it out and see what their recommendations are. We can certainly, invite the school district. My experience with school districts is when they have the tall lights for their stadiums, that they put these on there and they get revenue from it. So, that may be an opportunity for them as well, because those towers are already pretty tall, but we'll certainly include them. There are some things that we probably can go certain directions in this ordinance. So we were hoping to get direction to bring it to the Planning Commission, and of course back to the council once we're done vetting it at the Planning Commission.
I think it would be an important conversation point with the school district, perhaps for the subcommittee.
You want them to review it? Irene,
I would like, for them to know about it, so that if they want to have like a big cell tower, let's say at the park, there are limitations of what it is that we're trying to achieve, and perhaps they need to know what we're thinking and come to some agreement on those things. We don't know what their objectives would be.
Vice Mayor Cruz, as you know, they don't really come to us for permits necessarily, but it would be nice if they would.
It would be nice if we let them know that we would love to be on the same page with them.
I totally agree with that.
Use this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
No, and this is something that may impact, health and beautification, et cetera, et cetera. So, we don't want to have a tower that because Washington School needs it in front of another area that is not necessarily the boulevard.
Yeah, no, we'll include them for sure and get it on a planning commission, and if that's the direction, and bring something back.
As long as they're just aware that it is an issue that we are discussing, that way they can kind of get it. But Irene, is there anyone with their hand raised wanting to jump in and give public comment on this item?
No, no hands are raised, Chair.
Okay, I would just say, yeah, great first draft, and let's see what the planning commission comes up with. I guess, you know where Vice Mayor and I are on the issue. So yeah, good first step, and let's move forward with it. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to item 6B, update on 6 acres and South Cloverdale water companies.
Well, in terms of 6 acres, there's not a lot to update. The last meeting we attended, they were including wastewater side to the state funding, and they were starting negotiations. I haven't heard any update on whether there is funding available. They are part of the conversation, and they're
I thought there was, in the presentation we saw, there was grant money available for wastewater as well.
No, I think
That's
there
what
is. I just, do they qualify, and
Right.
can they pull it off?
Right.
They're part of the conversation, the wastewater side, and it sounds like they're in earnest really seeking funding to include that. So that is what probably is going on with 6 acres. And in South Cloverdale, there's monthly meetings. They're going through the same process.
Do they have the
hopefully-
same, did they have the same consultant, or?
They do. They do.
Yeah, okay.
They have the project manager from Sacramento State. They don't have the same attorney.
Okay.
So
But
they're
it's kind of moving along just behind.
it's moving along. Yeah.
Okay.
David, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. I mean, I've been attending me and Mark Rincon have been attending the monthly meetings and listening in, and they're going to be seeking a pre-annexation agreement at some point here, and hopefully we have a template that's can be used again given the amount of work that went into it.
Right.
Yeah, and 6 acres is they're negotiating with a consulting civil engineer to serve as the project consultant. The project consultant is engineer. Actually, I think Kevin, you work with her. I've worked with her, Marlene Demery, and she's a professional engineer that will oversee the process and be funded directly by the state. So it's great progress that the state is actually going to hire someone to manage the project. It will alleviate some of the burden on staff to do the day-to-day project management. But obviously there's still the critical policy issues where our input will be sought. And she's already reached out to us to set up a meeting. And I said, as soon as her contract is executed by the state, we'll get a meeting set up, and then that'll be kind of the official start of the work at that point in time. So I anticipate that we're just waiting for the state process for them to finalize the contract, and then we'll be off and running on at least 6 acres.
Great. Any questions, Madam Vice Mayor? Great. And any hands raised, Irene?
No hands are raised, and looks like we have lost our attendees.
Oh, man. I was
What?
hoping I was hoping my ratings would go up during the meeting. Well, I guess they didn't know what was coming next, which is the dog park. So
Yeah.
who wants to take this?
I don't really have any updates on the dog park. I was working with Elsa for a while. I haven't heard from her. I provided her with property owners for some sites that she was interested in, and that's kind of the last I heard from her, and that was a while back. So I wish I had something more, but
Well, I know it's still, it's an opportunity that hasn't come up yet. Luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity, right, Kevin?
yes, agreed.
That's what we're hoping to get lucky. Anyway, so we'll move on to item D, update on community development planning watch.
Probably the big hot item on this one is we've been discussing, and Rafael's even gone back further with this, a possible project on Osti Road, just south of Crocker Road. It's kind of, I don't know if you can picture it. It fronts Osti Road, and it's kind of a weird triangular shape. And this developer is interested in putting high density, low income housing there. And I think it's to the point where they're pretty much ready to submit an application. We had a meeting yesterday with David and Mark and Rafael, and just take a look at the site plan and the elevations. They're seeking various funding sources. It's going to be a tax credit and possibly USDA with some farm worker component. I think that's not really settled yet. That's their preferred path, but it's not certain that that's how it will shake out. It's really just a design review according to our zoning code for that type of project in that zone. It's 24 units an acre. There will be.
What's it currently zoned at?
It's TOD.
It is TOD. Okay, it's TOD. So it's Crocker Road and Asti. Is that the southeast corner?
How do I describe it, David? It's south of.
It's was essentially, if you're going north on Asti, right past the entrance, like the driveway to All Coast and New Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Right
And
after
then
that.
There's like an
So
open,
it's between,
yeah, right after that.
it's
And then
between, okay. I know.
yeah,
where it
that
is,
open kind of lot, and like sometimes in the summer, guys will park their truck on the tree, maybe walk back to the river or something like that. But
Yeah.
that open lot. Right
That
there,
spot. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's not the
Yeah.
one that floods as much. So okay.
Yeah, it's
Well, and
80,
are they doing
81.
some of it on the strength of it being it's in TOD, but are they doing some of the development on the strength of its proximity to transit?
That certainly came up. I think it's they like the zoning. By the way, it's 81 units.
Oh wow. Okay.
At 100% affordable. Per the state law, they'll be seeking a couple of concessions from zoning, which they're basically entitled to, and we really are difficult to deny them that. One of those will be a parking reduction.
Well,
we did talk.
It's interesting because now that ULI, that linear park plan on converting Citrus Fair becomes more important if you are doing more high density development over on that side of the 101. Yeah, connecting it to downtown becomes more and more important, and slowing the traffic and creating more recreational opportunities and stuff like that. It becomes more critical with that level of density over on that part of town.
When is this going to be discussed? Because I would like to see.
Well,
how much?
David had a great idea to ask them to do a community meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
They reluctantly agreed to.
They went, yeah,
No,
okay.
They're going to do it, and they even said they would mail out mailings and allow us to promote that meeting in any way we want to. And so
I think there's going to be a lot of interest.
I think we apprised them of what we think are the potential issues, including water, schools being seemingly at capacity, and all the other ones that we could think of. They were taking notes, so I'm hoping they do some research and understand the issues in Cloverdale about those particular things. So they were going to apply today, which kind of surprised me. I don't know if that ultimately happened, but the way our zoning is, this potentially could end at the planning commission because it's just a design review. And my gut tells me it will go to council because someone might appeal it or something like that. But it's moving forward. And
does he have enough outdoor space? Because that's kind of
design review, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
Well, all of these tax credit financed deals kind of have the same requirements, which is, some kind of playground, a community room. This one, they said that, didn't they say a gym, you guys? I think they said like a gym.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, just in our quick look at the site plan, I didn't see a ton of open space, to be honest with you. But there are sort of indoor amenities, and but that's something we're gonna have to talk about. And
thank you.
All right, well, thanks for bringing us up to date. That is that's a starred, that's a star on the development log. And Irene, no one's joined us in the meantime? All right, well, then we will move on to, let's see, well, we've got item F, regional housing needs allocation. Do we need to talk about that in addition to the previous item?
No,
Or
I
one
was
of the
gonna say,
previous items?
we kind of combine that with 5B. They go together.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to item G, amendment to ordinance prohibiting the use and sale of disposable food serviceware. We missed you at the council meeting, Vice Mayor.
Well, yes, I was a bit sick. I'm still don't see the positive results of the medication, only
Oh.
the negative. But that's why I was not there. But it is essential that we start talking about how we have gone back in terms of polystyrene foam since the pandemic, and we have to get back on track. We cannot continue to have this amount of trash accumulated. At the same time, people need to understand that there is constant check of our waters to see if there's any presence.
Oh, the effects of the start. How much does that testing cost us annually, Kevin? Maybe that's something that needs to be in the staff report too. Is that the constant checking for polystyrene effects in our drinking water?
Yeah, I have to check
Vice
with Mark.
Mayor, And Madam Chair and Vice Mayor, if I can, just in follow up to the council's action.
You mean inaction?
Well, very.
That's okay. I'll let you off the hook. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm glad that the direction was to bring it back, because I think it may have failed if we didn't take that action. But I think the action is going to end up being beneficial, and I say that because it's an opportunity, and I think to your point, Vice Mayor, for us to do some outreach to the community and reinforce the fact that the council did adopt the polystyrene ordinance.
Yeah. I think there just seemed to be a real fundamental misunderstanding of what the issues were that night. And I think that, unlike, other entities in Sonoma County, I'm not going to throw the staff or another body under the bus by saying, well, it's your fault. We just, whatever. I don't think there wasn't a really strong staff report, because I wouldn't have perceived a need for it either. But there wasn't a really strong staff report that sort of reflected what the real issues are. Everybody kind of got back in the old arguments and the old rehashed unfortunately, sorry to use the word garbage, but the old garbage about, oh, well, it's hard on the restaurants, so it's hard on business, so this isn't the time, all that nonsense. And it was stuff that we had already, by adopting the previous ordinance, that we had already gotten past. And so, I think that's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction to be like, well, it's a really hard time for businesses right now. But the fact is that most of the businesses in this community have already converted away from polystyrene. The fact is that they have 1 year to convert away from polystyrene. And none of the restaurants that we have in town that you can count, all of which you can count on two hands. It's not like we're Healdsburg or we're Santa Rosa, where we have there are scores and scores of restaurants. We have how many? 12 restaurants in this town. This isn't that hard. Do any of them have the storage capacity to store more than 1 year of polystyrene on site or in? No, they don't. That's the answer. And so I think that the conversation just really, just went off into fantasy land. Unfortunately,
that conversation obviously did not address.
It didn't reflect the facts.
We had approved that.
Yeah,
already.
It didn't reflect any of the facts that we had already approved it, and it didn't reflect the facts in the staff report, and it didn't reflect the facts on the ground in this community. It
And
also,
the fact,
yeah,
and the fact that the Chamber of Commerce has been working with us
Yeah.
for some time now.
yeah,
and-
they're already all over it.
So we
The
need
EDB
to-
is all over it. I mean, one of the main attractions for tourism in this county is the condition of our waterways and our rivers for our visitors. The other thing is that this is costing us money. Every time polystyrene goes into our landfill, we're going to see our trash rates go up, because it's going to lessen it's going to lessen the longevity of the landfill that is already at critical levels, and it's going to see our waste costs go up astronomically. So we need to be protecting the ratepayers from this kind of nonsense, and we actually need to make a decision so that we can move this community forward. So let's just do a better job next time on
Well, what I think
bringing forward
should
what the
do,
actual issues are and what the debate needs to be.
yes, when you bring it back, which I hope is very soon, we need to have the checklist. Work done by the chamber,
Yeah.
work done by Zero Waste and Recology, and the approval that has taken place, and the fact that we continue to test for particles in our
And
and
let's
the
just,
water that we consume.
yeah, and let's go ahead and restate the state of our landfill, and that we are at an emergency level where we have to divert everything we can to preserve the longevity of that landfill, and what it's going to do to our waste rates when that local landfill is full.
And then again, there's going to be the question, well, how much do you collect, and how much trash are we providing to the landfill? What we need to say is the more that we send to the landfill, the more that is going to cost the customers.
Yeah.
So we have to reduce the amount of trash that goes to the landfill, and that goes hand in hand with protecting the businesses and protecting the customers.
This is more than just an environmental, woo-woo, let's just all do the right thing. This is a straight up hardcore economic issue. Full stop, the end. This is, let's take it down to, this is an economic issue. Do you want to continue to fill our landfill with styrofoam unnecessarily and defer maintenance, just like we did with our wastewater and our water treatment plant? Or do we want to actually address the issue and save the ratepayers money? That's what it comes down to. And I think that's what, the balance of the council is going to need to hear. This is an environmental issue, but it is even more importantly, it is an important economic issue for this community.
So much for the zero waste people here on this committee, huh?
Now, let's throw the tree huggers under the bus and go for the money, because that's where the story is. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. And so, I'm tired of this irresponsible, doing things in the name of the economic good for our restaurant owners. It's just utter complete BS. That was absolute and complete BS, because it's throwing the ratepayers under the bus for a short-term, political gain. And I resent it. I resent that kind of misinformation and those kinds of conversations going on at our council meetings. It was embarrassing. It's not your fault, guys. It's not.
Well, I'm glad I was not there.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you weren't too.
Madam Chair and Vice Mayor, so this week I coordinated with Sloan Pagal, our zero waste program manager. I know works very closely with you as the chair of Zero Waste, Vice Mayor. We are going to send out a joint letter from both the city and Zero Waste to both business owners and restaurants, indicating, well, one, the existing ordinance is in effect and has been adopted, and it provides, as a reminder, certain prohibitions and restrictions. But in addition, a little bit of outreach in terms of letting the business community know or be aware that we're proposing what, albeit is really a minor amendment to prohibit the use of single-use food serviceware that contains the per and poly alkyl PFAS materials that has been found to be deleterious to our health. And so and then there's a link to the Zero Waste website, which has additional information is kind of a technical issue in a way. The PFAS is, I think, and so this is be our means of conducting additional outreach and also coordinating directly with the chamber so that we can, bring back as part of our discussion and address the points I think that this committee is referencing in terms of it's not so much an economic impact issue as it is a waste management issue.
Well, I saw that letter, and what's missing is the fact that it does have an impact to us locally in terms of our water enterprise.
Yeah.
So that has to be added to that letter.
Hey, people used to put lead in their wine to make it sweeter, I mean, Crimea River, this is a ridiculous material that, and actually the onus should be on the manufacturers to get it out of our environment. They have externalized those costs onto communities like ours. We pay for it with the having to pay for the testing of our drinking water. We pay for it in so many other ways. We're paying it for it. We're gonna pay huge, we're gonna pay huge amounts for having it sit in our landfill for thousands of years. So, sorry, but restaurants just need to stop carrying it because that's the tool that we have.
Right.
Yeah, they're
And we don't want to be
externalizing.
fined.
Yeah,
We
they're
don't want to be
externalizing the
fined.
costs onto all the rest of us and to the ratepayers, and it is not right. And that's a community, we have a choice and we can say no.
Anytime that is found on water, you get fined. We don't need any fines, and we don't need any additional cost.
Yeah, I would like some more information on how much it costs for us to test and what the fines would cost us when it's in our drinking water, because I think maybe, it comes down to, it is an economic burden on this community. So that you can, transport your pancakes. Are you kidding me? And you can use another material that's just as good, but instead of it even going in landfill, it can be composted either in your backyard or can go into the green bin, and then it comes back to in the community as compost. I mean, what's better than that? So, this is let's put this to bed. And any hands raised, Irene? Anybody joined us? They were going to wish they were here.
No hands, Chair.
All right, so with that, sounds like you have our guidance. We'd like to see this come back with some additional information to the rest of the council. Item 7, information only memos. Do you have anything for us?
No informational.
I heard a
memos.
future agenda item earlier. Marta, do you remember, or Kevin, do you remember what we were talking about now?
I think we were talking about putting the SB 69 as a standing item.
Yeah, and then let's get some information on its current status, because I mean, let's
will
not
do that.
rely on my memory and inability to remember sets of numbers from other
it.
sets of numbers. Pending items, I still don't know what that means. Good of the order? I don't think so. Good of the order, don't use styrofoam. Let's adjourn until our next scheduled meeting on June 15th. We'll see you then, and have a wonderful planning commission meeting, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.